Web3 esports, is it going to be better than Web2 esports? And if so, like, what's the difference and how can Web3 do it better? Are we gonna have more money because we got the token involved? Yeah, Viper, what do you think on this one?
Yeah, I mean, Web3 just has fundamentally far more money in it, right? Because I think currently Web3 customer just spends more money than a Web2 customer, and esports just is a marketing tool for whatever game you have. And yeah, I guess the big difference is in the Web3 scale, you also have people investing, right? Because you have very economy-driven games, and it's not just the studio lending you digital things where you can just play the game with, and eventually you don't play the game anymore and they're useless and you can't do anything or whatnot. So yeah, I think it attracts higher paying customers and it attracts investors as well. So it's just more money involvement. Therefore, the marketing, aka esports, is probably just gonna pay better as well. And then it's also just more funding, right? I think in general, a lot of companies have cut back on their esport just spendings in general and the events that they do. Maybe they learned that they can do a bunch of stuff online and it's not that much worse. And then the high ups at the company are like, yeah, you're just going to keep doing it online. We're not going to give you a couple million to rent out a big stadium anymore if we don't have to do that. So maybe Web2 just has that funding issue, while on the other side, Web3 just going to throw money at it. I think that's what a lot of things in Web3 are really, really good at doing.
Yeah, and what I like about like something like Illuvium, for example, is that they could put up, however much amount of ILV that they want. I mean, obviously in Illuvium with the tokenomics, we have like a window of that like 1 million ILV. But essentially, that's kind of like they don't need that revenue to back it up. They don't need to take $100,000 of the revenue that comes in to put it towards a tournament. They can take $100,000 of unminted ILV, and technically it'll inflate the market a little bit temporarily. But that's kind of like free, almost like free money that gets put out there for tournaments that Web 2 doesn't have the ability to do. Jimbo, what are you laughing for? Am I saying that wrong? Am I making it
No,
sound
it's
bad?
you made it sound bad, but you're right. Like saying free money is like just crazy. But
Yeah,
you're right though. I mean, you're right. I think like there and something like Viper said, like there's just so much more money in Web3. And spoiler alert, Web3 is already in esports. Team Liquid, Coinbase, and obviously they did the partnership with Illuvium. TSM was sponsored by FTX, but we're not going to really talk about that one because Gary Gensler didn't do his job, so we can blame the government for that. You guys can blame the government for TSM's implosion, but yeah, there's just so much more money in Web3, and the demographics, like the age of the demographics who watch esports and cryptocurrency line up. The morally, those two don't line up very much, but I think that'll merge over time as Web3 becomes more normalized in gaming. So that's pretty much my take on that. Web3 and esports, it's just money. There's so much more money, and esports is already having such a terrible time with, getting any kind of revenue back. A lot of these orgs are feeling the heat of feeling the heat. When we were feeling the heat in the bear market, so were the esports orgs. That's for damn sure.
yeah. So now, are we going to see like top esports players from other games look at game like Web3 games like Illuvium? Oh, they're having this esports tournament for $250,000 or whatever. I'm going to start learning these new games because they pay out way more than the Web 2 games that they're playing. Like I used to be involved in like Super Smash Bros. And one of the things that they always talked about, like being from Nintendo, they'd have these big tournaments that like top players in the world were just getting shit winnings, and it's just like they kept playing because they loved the game. But in the Web 3 version, they could be making a lot more money. So are people going to be just flocking over to Web3 when they see the money coming in?
I think Web3 has to prove itself first. But yes, obviously, once Web3 proves itself and these shitty Web3 dev. Fuck. So once these shitty Web3 game devs stop being lunatics and stealing everybody's money and we see quality projects come out and their esports are flourishing and they're actually good games, and the stigma behind NFTs goes away from people who don't know how to think for themselves, of course, like everybody's going to flock to Web3 esports. Again, it's just money. There's so much money here. And once people realize that they've been being stupid and that NFTs are a good thing, just when used in the right hands by the right companies that aren't going to screw you over, then we're going to see millions of people flow into esports, and there's going to be a ton of more players looking to try and be esports players because there's so much more money now.
In Viper, I know you've been in competitive gaming for a while, even before Illuvium. So, do you know any people that were maybe still stuck in the Web 2 esports realm that might be making the switch over soon?
I mean, there's more and more people that essentially go from, how do I put it, like dying Web2 games, dying Web2 esports things and so on, especially over the recent years, because it's been harder to get sponsorship contracts because I don't know, viewership and so on, it's going down. You don't have the live events anymore. Funding of companies is kind of screwed. Then I guess, like, I don't know, markets have not been great. You look at some like Face, for example, right? I think that like their stock was down 99% at some point. So things like that, it's not great for just Web2 just esport and getting even good sponsorship contracts and so on. Then companies like Blizzard had tremendous issues when, I don't know, the whole world was like not allowed to go outside anymore, and they had these insane esport leagues and stadiums built and partnerships, and it was like, oh, you can't do it anymore because ping exists, so you kind of have to be at the same spot, and cheating exists and so on. So yeah, there's like a lot of really negative things happening in Web2 that just screwed a lot of people's livelihoods over to some extent. And especially, I mean, I kind of used to, I was like doing Web2 esports for a living, right? And I was doing streaming. Streaming was like making far less money, but I also did streaming. And I was seeing Illuvium or a lot of crypto and Web3 things. I was like, yeah, you can actually make far more money playing these games than if I go any Web2 thing, right? Like I was even 2 years ago thinking, okay, I could play TFT. What is like the TFT World Championship at that point? I win, it's like some low 5-figure sum. I think nowadays it's a bit more, but it's still like $250,000 or whatever for World Championship.
It's
Maybe
not a
it's
lot.
$500,000. It's going up, like TFT is doing well, but that's like the best Web2 strategy game I can play. That is the highest monetizable win, and you cannot live off esport in that, for example. The only thing you can do is content and streaming. And that is true for most of those games. And there's dozens of Web3 games where, especially because the competition is a complete joke at the moment, there's barely anybody that, like, I would consider any competition at all. Like I don't know, maybe this sounds like mean or weird or arrogant or whatever, but to put that in perspective, right, I made $250,000 prize money in Hearthstone, which was the AAA top strategy game at the time. And I'm consistently, if I play TFT for fun, I'm like a top 100 player on my server, just playing like casually for fun and so on. There's barely anybody in any Web3 game that I would consider a competition if I would put my mind actually to it. And the same goes for a lot of other people with similar backgrounds. And I see a lot of them, for example, play Parallel recently. And they just farm leaderboard rewards. I think one of them recently said, I spent like 7K on some NFT deck, and now they make 3 to 4K a month pretty securely because being top 10 on the leaderboard is, they just are top 10, right? And you could probably do that in a lot of games. And again, because the competition, usually it would be like people go from the like AAA top tier game to like the lower ones until the competition is like not that difficult anymore, that they are the one that's making a net profit, which, for example, in Hearthstone, you would see people play, Runeterra comes out, let me play Runeterra. There's barely any money involved, but the competition is weak. Or Gwent, or like whatever new card game would come up, people would be like, oh, let me play this if they just were like B, C tier level players in Hearthstone. And the same thing is now. It's like all people just go like, okay, which game can I play? Where's the competition relatively easy? And then they just go for that. So yeah, I think people just follow the money. Like it's if you want to do this as a job, then you do it as a job. Then you like you look at what is the lucrative thing to do.
I think you're gonna do pretty well.
I mean, I'm doing way more content nowadays. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I see your content coming out. That's great too, and I know you're streaming a lot too. But
yeah, I did really well with your deck yesterday on stream. By the way, it was fun.
Yeah,
sometimes I look at some of your stuff and I'm just like,
that might help.
Dude, I went on a 14-game losing streak. What the fuck, man? How's that even possible? I said I'm not ending the stream.
Bad.
Yeah, I said I'm not ending stream until I win. I ended the stream. There's no chance. 14 in a row. Sorry, I didn't mean to derail the podcast, but I wanted to complain real quick.
I saw that screenshot. No, I was just about to say, like, just knowing how well Viper's playing in Illuvium, like, I see him putting out YouTube videos, and I'm just like, he's just doing that for fun. He doesn't need to build up his YouTube. He's going to be making these top leaderboard rewards every week.
True.
That's going to be nice. I wish I was a better player. I'm going to keep working at it. I don't think I'm going to be a top player.